This is how you know Tony Khan has nothing planned for AEW, nothing interesting in the works. And this is just him going through the motions at this point. Any announcement that he is going to make, it's going to involve introducing a new championship, which, if you think about it, adding more championships, it only devalues the other belts. So you mean to tell me that you got an entire roster of talented wrestlers and you have a huge roster on top of that, and then you include Ring of Honor? But we're not going to count Ring of Honor because you got different men and women competing for different belts in that whole brand. But through Dynamite and Collision, you have literally two mid-card belts. At a time, there was like three. And then they had the Unified Championship that combined the Continental Championship and the International Championship. So they're calling this title the AEW National Championship. Now, I don't think what you're seeing on the screen, I don't think that design is going to be the final design. I think that's just what they're making, what some people are making up or something. I don't know. But I doubt that's the final design. However, there is no need to add another belt. You got an entire roster that can compete for the World Championship. But it seems to me that a lot of those guys do not want to compete for the World Heavyweight Championship. They don't want to compete for the TNT Championship or the Unified Championship. I mean, that only devalues those three other belts. And then the more titles that you have, the less meaningful these championships are. It doesn't matter if you hold the World Heavyweight Championship because, hey, you have the TNT Championship, you can go after the Unified Championship, and now you can go after the National Championship. If you don't want to go after those three belts, then you can always find yourself a tag team partner and go after those AEW tag team championships or the trios titles, whatever. It's all a joke at this point. It's meaningless. It's pointless. And I suggested this way back 2 years ago. AEW needs a brand split. You divide the roster in half. You have enough people on your roster. You have a big enough roster to do a brand split. Put half your roster on Dynamite, put the other half on Collision, and then have whatever belts you want to have associated with that specific brand. For example, on Dynamite, you can only have the AEW World Championship be defended, and the title holder, they can only appear on Dynamite. With the TNT Championship, the TNT champion can only compete on Collision every Saturday. The AEW Women's World Champion can only compete on Dynamite every Wednesday. You get the point. So from a business standpoint, I think it would bring a lot of identity to a lot of wrestlers, a lot of names, and a lot of identity to those championships. And Tony Khan's not going to do that anytime soon because he's not really smart in that way to where he can bring more identity to the roster, because everything is just mixed around everybody. And I can appreciate the fact that there are fresh matchups every week. Everyone's kind of being mixed around through the card, which it's not a bad thing, but at some point you need some direction with this roster. And having a brand split, having two, separating the rosters in half would do the trick. And you could have the national championship as a mid-card title. And the TNT title could also be a mid-card that you can only see on Collision. The national title could be on Dynamite every Wednesday. And then you can even make the Unified Championship a secondary world title to the equivalent to the AEW World Championship. So that would make sense for them to do that. But adding just another championship just for the sake of it, it's lazy. And it tells me that all those other championships are not worth fighting for. The less titles you have, the more meaning they have on them, the more value there's on those titles. Because why? It makes the other wrestlers want to work harder to fight for those championships, to win them, to be a champion. But if you got like 5 different single titles on your shows, then the value of all those titles, they automatically go down. And it doesn't make it worth fighting for, because, well, I don't need to be a world champion. I can just wrestle for the TNT championship. I can just wrestle for the national title. I can wrestle for the unified championship. I don't got to wrestle for the world championship, but that was the whole goal for every wrestler, to win a world heavyweight championship. So AEW is defeating the purpose by adding more belts, defeating the purpose of wanting to climb up the top of the ladder, on the top of the food chain, for every wrestler to want to be a world champion. You're defeating the purpose by adding more belts. So the meaning of these titles, they go instantly down. And then no one's going to want to work hard. No one's going to want to even compete for the world title, because you have 3 other singular belts. So it just doesn't make any sense to me, man.